next up, we have RegulAItion. And they're talking about AIR Platform, which is a data access and collaboration mechanism which helps to preserve privacy, not piracy. And let's check in with RegulAItion. Hello, RegulAItion.
Hi, I'm Sally Sverchait, and I'm the CEO of RegulAItion. We are a RegTech and data tech company operating in the financial services and professional services sector. We are a UCL incubated company. I'm having trouble with slides. Excuse me, everybody. There we go. We're a UCL incubated company. Our chairman is very well known. Please do look him up. He has pioneered algorithmic trading. Our CTO is based in Singapore. He is ex-DBS, UBS, Standard Chartered, and Deutsche Bank. And I used to be a partner at Clyde & Co. And an ex-regulator, general counsel, and head of compliance. The AIR platform that I'm about to talk to you about is financially supported by Innovate UK, so the UK government. We're tackling problem statement 6. It's very well known that data sharing is a problem and data access is a problem, and pretty much every solution that will be discussed today needs data access in order to amplify the intelligence. We've been working on the problem of data sharing with the Financial Conduct Authority and the Bank of England in the context of digital regulatory reporting since 2016. The traditional model is to bring the data to the algorithm. We've reversed it. We bring the algorithm to the data. What that means is that the data is never shared, the personal and the identifiable information is never revealed, and the data itself never moved. Only the insight is aggregated, not the data. In doing so, we're making private data held by organizations accessible. We're also making data accessible across jurisdictions and across organizations, all in compliance with privacy and security regulation, and while preserving commercial interests. So how does the AIR platform actually work? In the context of the pandemic, we need access to medical records, we need access to medical claims, we need access to track and trace information. All of that data is accessible through a circle of trust through the AIR platform. You run the algorithm and you get the insight. Then you add some demographic data and you run the algorithm again and you see what insight you get. The biggest question is, are vaccines going to be effective? You add that data from anywhere in the world and you run the algorithm again and you see the insight that you get. The insurance industry is about managing risk, but to manage risk, you need data, and the data is everywhere, it's new, and it's highly sensitive. And it must remain private. It's our health records, our identities, our movements, our children's health records. The insight out of that data is highly valuable for everybody, but we still must preserve the interests of the individuals themselves. We've overcome the challenges of common data models. So remember how we said that it is the data that comes to the algorithm. Because now it's the algorithm that goes to the data, you no longer need data models, and we like data silos. In designing the AIR platform, we thought about the needs of the organization and the needs of the individuals. And we've embedded multiple next generation technologies to achieve a purpose, which is automated data governance, automated workflows in the data science side of things, and a full auditability and traceability of all of the actions that take place on the data itself. And that is transparent and available for everybody to see. So the platform is sector agnostic. We're working with the Isle of Man government on climate change, with Oasis LMF, which is funded by 21 of the largest insurance companies, also on climate change. We're working on next generation services and transforming the professional services industries through multiple collaborations with Ashurst and a lot of law firms and Wilson Wright. And through this Hackcelerator, we have proven that with working with QBE Insurance, that they can have an improvement of up to $2.8 million in the workplace injury compensation segment. We're also working, and we continue to work with the FCA on achieving the data pull vision with globally systemically important banks, with smaller banks, and also with other RegTechs, because it will take an ecosystem of participants to solve the challenges to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the pitch. Regulation. And now we have 5 minutes on the clock for a little chat with our judges. We have a first question from Judge Solmaz. Over to you, Solmaz.
Thank you very much, Sally. Great presentation. It's great to hear that the output is auditable and traceable, because that's always been a problem for us in the insurance industry. So what's the feedback from regulators? And I know that you're working with UK, but maybe also from other regulators on that. Do they actually say, yes, that's okay, the way you do it, that is for us fulfilling this requirement of auditability and traceability?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. So working with enterprise on data sets that are really, that should be kept private is a huge challenge. So we don't just work with the financial services regulators, we also work with the data regulators. So we're working with the Information Commissioner's Office, and we work with the General Counsels, we work with the InfoSec. So it's a whole group of people that we work with who all see the solution and do a tick. That's exactly what we achieve.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And our next question comes from Walter. Walter, your question, please.
Hey, Sally. Solmaz and I are both in the insurance industry, so we're always very intrigued about how do we get maximum use out of data for so many different reasons and purposes. One of the challenges we've always faced is data protection, consent of data use, all of that kind of stuff. And given that you're not actually taking the data from somewhere else, you're actually applying it at source. Yeah. Do you find that you have a kind of a nuance around data protection laws, which is open to allowing people to not need to give consent for you to analyze that data, given the way your algorithm or capabilities work?
So what is happening in the GDPR space of things, in the data protection space, we're processing the data. So as long as the organization has the permission to process that data for an internal purpose, it can also process the data for developing the algorithm. So yes, the burden of obtaining consent is certainly removed. Well, assuming they received consent in the first place to process the data.
Thank you for that. Judges, do we have any more questions for regulation? Once again, please raise your hand in the chat room. I do believe, Tinkyet, you have a question for regulation.
Yes, I do. Thank you very much for the presentation. I'm interested to find out, because your solution takes the application to the data. How is this applicable where there are opportunities of pulling data from two different sources, which is where it's usually sensitive, and somehow manage to do a match to make sense of the data? Does the solution help to do that as well? Two different sources, right? Two different partners which are usually sensitive. And as what Walter is saying, sometimes in the insurance industry, that gets quite tricky as well. How do we make sense of that?
Yeah, so the solution is designed to address, to provide a mechanism for multiple organizations to work together on a single algorithmic purpose. The challenge, there are multiple challenges. First of all, the challenge of they don't want to share commercial information, let alone privacy, but also commercial information. We overcome that because it's only the insight that is shared. So the algorithm will go to the data set of every insurer, for example, and it will take the insight, which is the pattern. So it'll be 60% of cases, this has happened. It will never share the underlying customer name, the underlying, whatever you want. And because we don't need common data models, you don't have also the challenge of converting the data into a common data model before you can work on the algorithm. We just take it in its existing format, in its existing location.